Hello, welcome back to Beeball's Kitchen. Welcome to those of you who are new to my channel. I am going to be making dressing and giblet gravy today. My church is having a Thanksgiving dinner for the worship team, and two of my grandchildren are on that team, and so my granddaughter Ruthie has volunteered me to make the dressing. She told them, she says, my Beeball makes the best dressing of all. So I got elected, but anyway, I want to share with you how I make my dressing. I don't have a particular recipe, but I will post the ingredients below and you can see how I do this. I'm going to make cornbread. I have to boil eggs. I use raw eggs. I use onion, salt and pepper, chicken broth, and light bread and saltines. So I've got to get busy and get this done. I'm going to put my eggs on to boil, and I'm going to mix up the cornbread, and we're going to get this going because I don't have just a few hours to get through with this. So let's get started. I will be making a lot of dressing, so it's going to take a lot of ingredients to do this. I'll start by getting my eggs on to boil. I think I will probably boil about 10 eggs. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to cook a chicken. I want to use some of the meat in my gravy, and so you could do this with chicken quarters. I am not using livers in my gravy. My son Matthew, bless his heart, he doesn't like liver in the gravy, and so I'm just omitting that. I always had put liver in my giblet gravy. But anyway, I won't be doing that today. You can put the livers in if you want to. And what you have to do is to cook your giblets first. You cook those until they're done. I will be putting gizzards in as well as some of the chicken meat. But the first thing I'm going to do is to cut up my chicken. Okay, I think the pieces that I'm going to use the back. I'm going to save the wings, drumsticks, and I think the short thighs. I will cook this part, and that will be enough meat. I'll save these two breasts. I will cook the hearts because I will be using those in my giblet gravy. And I will get my gizzards now and add them to the chicken and get those cooking with it as well. Okay, now when you're cooking or getting ready to cook gizzards, you want to make sure that they are clean. And by that I mean that they have taken the insides. It has a lining because this is their stomach, and you sometimes we'll see it looks green. I'm going to try to find one to show you what I'm talking about. Watch all of them be clean. That'll be all right too. Surely to goodness there's one in here that has not been thoroughly cleaned. It will be on this part of the gizzard. I have forgotten a pack of gizzards that didn't have some of that on one of them. But since I wanted to show you, I guess it's not going to have any. Well, somebody was doing a good job wherever they packed this. Well, these are all clean. I cannot believe this. Honestly. Just remember, this part of the gizzard, if there's like a green looking lining on it, just peel it off. It's easy, you just get a hold of it and just peel it off. It's not hard to peel. But none of these have any of it. Somebody was really doing their job well, whoever cleaned these gizzards, because I don't believe a single one has got any of it. None, none, none. Well, good for that person that did their job well. Okay, I will not use all of these in my gravy either. I probably will set some of these out and fry them for me and my son to have later. I'm going to wash these, rinse them off. Okay, I'm going to add part of these to that, and that's, excuse me, that is enough in my pot for my gravy. So you can see what I have in here, and I'm going to add water to this and salt and get this cooking. I have filled my pot almost full of water because that will make broth for me. It's not all the broth that I will need, but I will use part of it. I'll use part of it in my gravy. Okay, I'm going to mix up my cornbread for my dressing, and I'm tripling the recipe because I'm going to be feeding a good number of people. So I have to have 6 cups of my cornmeal. I'm using Martha White self-rising cornmeal. Okay, and then it tells me to whisk my milk, eggs, and oil together. So I'm going to whisk my eggs first, and I'm going to add my milk to this. And I have to add 3/4 cup of oil. I will add this now to my cornmeal and mix it all together. I have my oven is preheated to 450 degrees, and I'm going to be baking 3 pans, cast iron pans of cornbread. Now, of course, if you were doing this for just an average family, you'd probably do 1/3 of this recipe that I'm doing. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to bring my pans over, and I'm going to put some oil in these and set them in the oven. I want them to get really hot. So I'm just going to pour some oil. You could use bacon grease if you wanted to, vegetable oil, Crisco, it doesn't matter. I'm going to add a little bit of bacon grease to mine. It just gives it a flavor. All right, I'm going to set these in the oven and let them get good and hot. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes, so I'm going to take my pans out of the oven and fill them with cornbread. I'll pop this one in and let it heat while I put cornbread mixture in this. Okay, so I'm just going to pour some in this. I'm going to go ahead and put this large one in the oven. Okay, my chicken is done, so I'm going to go ahead and take it up so it can be cooling, because I will have to pull it off of the bone and shred it. Now, I did salt my water. I didn't add any pepper to this. Sometimes I do, but I didn't today. But I will be adding pepper to my dressing and my gravy, so it wouldn't have made any difference. Okay. I'm going to set the chicken aside and let it cool, and then I will cut that up a little bit later. Okay, I think it's been about 5 minutes since I set that last pan in there. So I will set this one in the oven, and now I will add the rest of my cornmeal, my cornbread mixture, into this pan. Okay, I will set this in my other oven and let it be baking as well. Okay, my second pan of dressing is done baking, and so I'm going to take this really large bowl that I have and turn my cornbread into it, because it's going to have to cool, because I have to get my hands in it when I'm making it, and I can't do it if it's really hot. So I'm just going to turn it in. You don't have to worry if it tears up, because you're going to tear it up anyway. So let me see if I can dump it into my bowl now. See if I can get this one out. This one doesn't feel like it's sticking like that one did. Yeah, there we go. Go ahead and just break this up so it can be cooling. Now I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to work on my chicken. I want to take the skin off. I won't be using that in my gravy. I'm just going to take all the meat off of the bone. Okay, this is the wishbone. And I have no one here to help me make a wish. Oh well. And this is the back, which does not have very much meat on it. Okay, I think that gets everything. So now I'm going to cut up my gizzards, and I'll probably chop up this meat a little bit. All right, my third pan of cornbread is done. So I'm going to turn it out also into my bowl. So I have all the cornbread cooked, and all I have to do is let this cool so I can put my other ingredients in it, and then get it ready to go into the oven. I'm going to set this aside now and let it cool, and I'm going to chop up my chicken gizzards and my chicken. Okay, I just chop these up small. Okay, all the gizzards and the hearts are cut up, and now I'm going to cut my chicken up just a little bit finer than what it is. Just kind of tear it apart. Okay, the meat is all chopped. Now this is for the gravy, and I will also chop up eggs, hard-boiled eggs, and put in my gravy. Okay, now I'm going to chop my boiled eggs that will go in my gravy. I might not put all of these in, but I'm having to boil some more for my dressing. I don't know where my brain was at when I was boiling them this morning, but I didn't have enough for my dressing and for my gravy. I wasn't thinking about putting them in my gravy. You want them chopped up pretty fine to go in for the gravy, as well as the dressing. I don't want big hunks of egg in my gravy or dressing. Now what I will do is my gravy, I will add broth to this. Normally, whenever I'm cooking a turkey, I will also use some of the broth from the turkey. I like to do that as well as just chicken broth. Okay, and so I'm going to add my egg to this, and that's enough egg. I'm going to add some more broth to this. I'm going to save the other broth that I have because it has the grease from the chicken, and I want that for my dressing. Okay, I'm going to put this on the stove, and I'm going to simmer it for just a little while. I have some light bread that I had in the freezer. You want to use bread that is sort of stale in this. I've left this out overnight where it would really toughen up. So I'm going to break this up and add it to my cornbread. Normally, I would do probably 3/4 of a loaf or half a loaf of bread to this much dressing. You wouldn't just, if you were doing just to feed an average family. I had saved this in the freezer for this very purpose, but I had used up all the bread that I had, just plain white bread. I have other bread, but it has all the grains and seeds and stuff in it, and I don't want that in my dressing. So I'm going to use some of my bread that I baked in place of not having enough light bread. Or you may call it loaf bread. I was raised calling it light bread. This is some of the bread that I baked in my jars. If you didn't have bread, loaf bread, you could make biscuits to go in it, would be fine. I'm going to add some pepper to my gravy, and I'm going to turn the heat down. I've got it up to boiling, So I'm going to turn it down and just let it kind of simmer for a little bit. And then I will be back to complete that. But I'm working on the dressing. And so now I have torn up 2 of my little loaves of bread into this, and I'm going to use a whole sleeve of saltines. I'm going to crush them. I want to break them up fine, and I will add that to my mixture. And I'm just going to start mixing all this stuff together and see what I need to add. I think I'm going to have to add some more bread. You don't want it to be real coarse with cornbread, and it's kind of, you just kind of develop a feel for this. You can tell if it's going to be too grainy. You don't want it to be real grainy. I'm going to open another loaf of bread and break it up in here. I want all my cornbread really broken up. Now if you do a large amount like I've done here, you can freeze this. And I usually do that. I make enough that I can put some in the freezer. And then when my kids are wanting dressing, all I have to do is take it out, thaw it, and bake it. But you know, I mean, it's a good bit of work that goes into making it, so you know, that's why I make a good bit of it, and then I can just eat it later. I want to break this up fine. Okay, we'll mix that in and see. You can tell better about the feeling of it once you get the broth in it and it becomes wet. I don't use a lot of spices in my dressing for the simple fact that a lot of people do not like sage. A lot of people use sage in their dressing, and it's fine. You can use whatever you like, but the only thing that I use in mine as far as spices go is onion. I use onion in it and salt and pepper. I'm not going to add any more bread right now. I'm going to wait until I add my broth to this and see how it feels at that point. And I would know then whether or not I need to add more bread to it. Okay, I'm going to chop up 3 onions and see if that's going to be as much as I need. I'm going to chop them in my food processor because I want them cut up pretty fine. Okay, that's 3 onions, and I believe that will be enough. That was with 3 fairly large onions. I'm going to add some cornstarch to my gravy. I don't know exactly how much it's going to take, so I'm going to do it in this measuring cup. That's 1/4 of a cup, and I'm going to fill this with water and add it to my gravy. I want to stir it so that it's mixed and dissolved. I don't want any clumps of cornstarch going in. That onion had my eyes tearing and my nose running, and boy, it was rough. Okay, now I'm going to add my cornstarch. Okay, and I'm going to increase the heat on this. I'm going to bring it back up so that this will thicken, and I will see if it's enough. You want to keep it stirred when you get that cornstarch in there, because if you don't, it'll sure stick and it'll scorch. You just season this to your own taste, ever how much salt and pepper. If you add pepper to it, you know, just season it according to your taste. I don't want it super thick, but I don't want it to be real runny either. Okay, it's come to a boil, but it's not thick enough, so I'm going to have to add some more cornstarch to this. I'm going to add the same amount again. And now I want to stir this and let that cook. That should make it as thick as I need it to be. I hope it doesn't make it too thick. And now to this, I want to brown it So I'm going to add some kitchen bouquet. And it doesn't take very much of this. A little bit goes a long way. That's perfect. That's exactly how I like for it to look. I'm going to turn this down to low and let it simmer. And I'll keep stirring it from time to time. I don't want it to stick, but I'm going to let this cook for a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to add my chopped eggs, the ones that I have. I've got some more cooking, and I will add more to this. But I'm just going to kind of mix what I've got in here now up. And as soon as those others get through cooking, I'll peel some more and add some more to this. I also will be adding raw eggs to this. I have a piece of a sleeve of saltines, and I feel like my dressing needs more, so I'm going to add some more saltines and use up this 3/4 of a sleeve. I'm going to start adding some raw eggs now. I have 9 here, and I'm going to use them. I may add more than that. I don't know. Okay, and now I'm just going to work this in. And I'm going to pour this broth that I have that I cooked my chicken. I'm going to go ahead and pour that in. Okay, I'm going to add 5 more boiled eggs to my mixture here. I just don't feel like there's enough with as much cornbread and stuff as I have. And I'm going to add 3 more raw eggs, which would make that be a dozen. And now I'm going to mix this in. I'm going to add some chicken broth. I need more broth. With all the bread, the cornbread, the saltines, the bread, it really absorbs the chicken broth. You use quite a bit of broth to get it to the right consistency. And I think I'm going to have to add some more bread to this. It's feeling kind of grainy to me, and I don't want it to be super grainy. Of course, it's going to be grainy some because of the cornbread. I tell you, the rain is just pouring outside. That latest tropical system that came through that turned into like a Category 1 hurricane is where this rain is coming from. And it's supposed to rain, I think, all day today and tomorrow. So this should be fun, carrying this stuff to the church. We're probably going to be like drowned rats when we get inside. But anyhow, it's okay. We'll have a good time once we get in there. I'm going to add some more broth. I feel so bad for the people in Florida. They were damaged so from Hurricane Ian. And now this one has come in right on top of it. So those people are really suffering down there, and I'm so sorry about that. Okay. I'm going to open another loaf of my little bread and put that in. Keeps raining like this, my swimming pool will overflow. Okay, let me mix this in. Add some more broth. It's feeling pretty good. You just want to keep squeezing it between your hands and breaking up all the lumps of bread. Cornbread, light bread, saltines, whatever. You just want to break it all up. You want it really like mush. And I think I've about got that completed. I'm going to get a spoon and taste it for my seasoning. I know it will have to have some salt and pepper. I'm going to just taste lightly. Oh yeah, it's got to have some salt. And I'm going to go ahead and add my pepper to this. And I'm going to stick my hands back in. That's better. I think I still need to add some more broth to this. I still think it's a little thick. Okay, I'm just going to open a can of broth and add it. Yeah, that's more like my dressing. I make my consistency really soupy, and that feels like the way it's supposed to feel to me now. Let me put a little bit more on my spoon and taste it. Gosh, that's good. Okay, the dressing I am through with, other than baking it. I will put it, I'm going to bake 2 pans of this. I do it in the Pyrex baking dishes. I have one that's pretty big, and then I'll do the other one in a 9x13. And when it's time to put it in the oven, which it'll take about an hour for them to bake, I will be back then. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, it's time for me to bake my dressing. And so I'm going to spray my pans with Pam to keep the dressing from sticking to it, and I'm going to pour it into the pans and get it into the oven. This is a 9x13. And this one is larger. I don't know, I don't think it really says what size it is. It doesn't, it's just big. That's all I know, just big. Stir this again. Okay. I was hoping that there was going to be enough that I could put in the freezer for Thanksgiving, but there won't be. I'll have to make more. That will never be enough for my family when we all get together, so I'll have to have about this much again. But that's okay. It's not a big deal. I'll just make more dressing. Okay, I'm going to put these in the oven now. I bake them at 350 degrees, and it will take about an hour for this to cook until it's done. When it's finished, I will bring it back out and show it to you before I put it in my car and take off to the church. I will not be doing a taste test, I'm sorry. But anyway, I will be back when I get this out of the oven. Okay, my largest pan of dressing is done. The smaller one is almost ready. I have taken it out of the oven. I'm going to show you how this looks. I've got to get it in my car and get it carried to the church, but I did want to show it to you. Okay, that concludes this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. I hope that maybe you will try my dressing one day. And I hope if you haven't subscribed that you will subscribe. Click on the notification bell, leave me a comment, and please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoy my video. And until the next time, this is B-Boss saying, may the Lord bless and keep you and your family safe. And until we see each other again, you take care, but I'll see you real soon in another video. Bye.